On this episode of Cape Media News, 2 Massachusetts houses explode, a recap of Yarmouth's annual town meeting, and grandmothers against gun violence. These stories and more tonight on Cape Media News. Good evening and welcome to Cape Media News, your source for hyperlocal news that matters. I'm Lauren Williamson. In the early hours of Friday, April 14th, a house in Berlin, Massachusetts exploded. The explosion leveled the building, killing a 79-year-old woman and injuring her daughter. Less than a week later, another house exploded, this time in Truro. The explosion at 8A Hardings Way in Truro occurred on Thursday, April 20th, 2023, resulting in the complete destruction of a 6-bedroom home and damage to nearby properties. Firefighters from several towns responded to the scene and worked to contain the fire and prevent it from spreading further. Fortunately, no one was inside the house at the time of the explosion, and no injuries were reported. The cause of the explosion is currently under investigation by authorities, and Truro Fire Chief Timothy Collins noted that it was one of the most significant incidences he has dealt with in his over 20 years of experience. The lack of nearby hydrants and issues accessing the area contributed to the difficulty in fighting the fire. While the Henning family who owned the home suffered a devastating loss, they are grateful that no one was hurt. The causes of both explosions are still under investigation, but both properties utilized propane. Investigators will continue to examine the scene to determine the cause and to work to prevent similar incidences from occurring in the future. 2 individuals were arrested on drug trafficking and firearm possession charges last Wednesday as a result of a lengthy narcotics investigation by members of the Barnstable Police Department, Narcotics Unit, Detective Unit, Patrol Force, and Drug Enforcement Administration. The suspects Vashon Leonard and Tyree Wade were taken into custody and search warrants were executed on their persons and on a residence in Hyannis. During the search, 66 grams of crack cocaine, packaging material, a scale, 1 firearm with 9 rounds of ammunition, a Fendi side bag, and a large sum of cash were seized. Leonard was held on a $5,000 cash bail, while Wade was held on a $3,000 cash bail, and both were arraigned at Barnstable District Court on Thursday, April 20th. Leonard is charged with several drug and firearm offenses, and Wade is charged with drug offenses and operating a motor vehicle with a suspended license. The Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce's Blue Economy Foundation, Plymouth Area Chamber of Commerce, and Plymouth Foundation invite you to attend the inaugural Big Blue Conference, Big Ideas and Blue Careers. This 2-day event boasts 17 expert speakers, local oysters, and engaging discussions on the future of Cape Cod and the surrounding blue economy. The conference will take place on Tuesday, May 2nd and Wednesday, May 3rd at the Massachusetts Maritime Academy, Maritime's Conference Center in Buzzards Bay. State Senator Susan Moran is promoting the event, which will feature presentations on legislative action, renewable energy, aquaculture, regional economics, and more. Attendees will have the opportunity to engage with regional educators, organizers, marine life specialists, and artists. Notable speakers include Massachusetts Office of Economic Development Secretary Yvonne Howe, Senator Susan Moran, Avangrid CEO Pedro Blasquez, and representatives from Vineyard Wind 1 and South Coast Wind. Also, Emmy Award-winning executive producer of Shark Week and Deadliest Catch, Paul Gassick, will also be in attendance, among other leaders in economic development, preservation, and aquaculture. Registration for the Big Blue Conference is open now, with special pricing for Cape Cod Chamber and Plymouth Area Chamber members. If you're not a member, now is the perfect time to join and take advantage of this exceptional event. The Association to Preserve Cape Cod has requested the Healy-Driscoll administration to reevaluate the best use of the 20,000-acre Joint Base Cape Cod property. The APCC's executive director, Andrew Gottlieb, suggested that the underdeveloped areas of the base could be used to address the Cape's housing shortage and support the local business climate. The proposal includes developing affordable housing, creating a carbon-neutral community, and redeveloping the wastewater treatment plant. Additionally, the APCC called for replacing the limited protection of the Upper Cape Water Supply Reserve with a permanent and broader protections, as it is a vital source of drinking water in a significant forested area. The APCC emphasized the need for transformational thinking to address climate, water, and housing challenges, with a stating, quote, "The APCC realizes that what we are proposing here reflects a major undertaking that challenges some of the accepted norms governing Cape Cod. That said, climate, water, and housing challenges we face require transformational thinking. We are simply not going to be able to solve these existential problems without being willing to challenge and alter the status quo." The Dennis Center for Active Living will launch Older Americans Month 2023, Aging Unbound, with a celebration on May 1st from noon to 2 p.m. at the Dennis Center for Active Living. The celebration will include a career fair for workers of all ages with recruiters from Cape Cod Regional Transit Authority, Elder Services, and many others. John Terrio, Dennis Selectman Board Liaison to the Dennis Council on Aging, will read the proclamation at the event, recognizing Older Americans Month 2023. Attendees will be able to view the completed DCAL community patio funded by a 2022 AARP Community Challenge grant and learn opportunities for engagement. In November 2022, the town of Dennis became a member of the AARP network of age and dementia-friendly communities. For more information about age and dementia-friendly development work, please email bvasquez, VAZQUEZ, at town.dennis.mass.us. Coming up after the break, a look at Yarmouth's town meeting. Stay tuned. The town of Chatham has announced that it will be utilizing an electronic voting system for their annual town meeting next Saturday, May 6th. Town manager William Litchfield released a PSA this week explaining how the system works. Take a look.
This year, Chatham's annual town meeting will utilize for the first time an electronic voting system. The system, designed by Meridia Voting Systems, is a digital voting software. It's designed around the idea of a visual vote confirmation, which allows for both maximum transparency and vote confidence. The moderator will still call for the vote, and when that happens, you'll be issued when you check in a handheld clicker, simpler than that you probably have for your television, which will have a yes, one, or green button. It'll say all three things. And 2, no, or red button if you want to vote no. When we open the vote, you will then vote yes, or 1, or green if you're in favor, 2, or red, or no if you're opposed. We'll have a timed period, probably 30 seconds. And if you want to change your vote during the voting window, you can do so by entering a new vote. When you vote, your handheld clicker will say okay and acknowledge that your vote has been counted. The votes will be locked in at the end of the timed voting period, and then the display will be up on the screen. The system is offline, closed circuit, in no way connected to the internet. It is highly secure. It's been used by a significant number of towns here in Massachusetts with success. We think it will bring greater transparency. It will also speed up the the timing of counted votes, and it will also provide privacy, which is important. We know that you come to town meeting because you care deeply about the town and about the issues which are before the town, but this will allow you to vote without worrying about how your neighbor will feel about seeing your hand up when theirs is down, or vice versa. So we think it's an improvement in the process, and we hope that you will find the same.
The Yarmouth annual town meeting was held this week, bringing together town officials, committee members, and citizens to discuss and vote on critical issues that shape the future of Yarmouth. Ryan Thompson has more.
Yarmouth residents gathered on April 25th, 2023 for their highly anticipated annual town meeting where a variety of proposals were presented and discussed. Among the 36 articles up for consideration, one in particular caught the attention of attendees, Article 18.
We're here to discuss the creation of a wastewater treatment system to improve and protect the environment and the water quality in our town. This project has been a long time in coming, and it will help protect the future of our community.
We've spent a great deal of time trying to develop an integrated financial management plan for the sole purpose of driving down the costs as much as we possibly could for each individual resident and property owner.
This proposal sparked heated debate and thorough discussion among both town officials and residents alike, highlighting its significance as the most important topic on the agenda.
Just based on what I'm hearing tonight in phase one and being a part of 8 eventual phases, maybe it's time that the town takes a position to demand and to fight back and require the Commonwealth to pay for this extraordinary indebting our grandchildren program. Now, I see a lot of people, applauding and very supportive of this phase one, but the phase one cost an estimated $210 million. Now, what about phase 2 through 8? Where are those anticipated costs? I mean, these are unknowns, and for these unknowns, I could certainly never, ever, ever indebt my grandchildren to this program.
A lot of people making comments about, oh, my kids, my grandkids, I want them to see this. I don't want them to pay for this. And so I'm 23 years old. Looking around the crowd, I don't exactly see a lot of people my age. So I just wanted to maybe make a statement from my perspective as a member of that community. And so I think for a lot of us that the environment is something that we need to make a point to protect regardless of the cost. And including those costs, yes, they may increase down the road. Yes, there are costs that we don't see for future phases, but if we want Cape Cod to continue being the beautiful Cape Cod that we all know and love, and to not have your kids or your grandkids come back and visit you and see the body of water you learned to swim in as a nice pool of algae and sludge, then we need to start the process now.
All in favor of the motion on Article 18, please raise your cards and say aye. All opposed? It's a clear-cut 2/3 vote. The motion carries.
Two other items on the agenda sparked heated debates among attendees. Article 34 proposed prohibiting disposable plastic food containers and utensils, and Article 35 aimed to ban disposable plastic water bottles in the community.
Plastic is the issue of the day. In spite of the fact that much research has been conducted and articles written about the harmful impacts of plastic, there has been little action to address the plastic pollution problem.
As supporters and opponents made their arguments, tensions ran high over the importance of reducing plastic for public and environmental health versus the freedom of business owners to make their own choices.
As a small business owner of a restaurant, I understand where the movement of green is going towards. I mean, we're educated on that pretty consistently as restaurateurs. We're getting pushed by our vendors to say, this is where things are heading. And we understand that. We're not blind to it. However, being in the society and the way our economic structure is set up, it's still our choice to choose whether or not we use paper, plastic. If we want to use the cornstarch-based, things that are coming out, there's a lot of different alternatives. I understand that. But what this amendment is doing is literally taking away your ability as a restaurateur to choose to do something.
I'm actually a fishing captain, both recreationally and commercially. All I drive by, going about 25 miles an hour, is plastic. Just whatever you're picturing now, triple it. I cover a lot of miles that no one will ever see in their entire lifetime. 15 miles, 35, 55 miles offshore, I've found plastic everywhere. We have to do something about it. Obviously, I'm strongly for this amendment.
All in favor of the proposed amendment to the motion 34, say aye. All opposed? The motion carries by majority vote. All in favor of Article 35, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion carries.
Despite the division, both articles ultimately passed, signaling a commitment to reducing plastic waste and protecting the environment in Yarmouth.
I just want to make a point to the audience. We have a nice turnout tonight that we haven't seen in many, many years. The history of issues like these is that people will bring them up and sometimes they pass, and then 6 months from now, at fall town meeting or the next spring town meeting, somebody brings it up to repeal it. So I would urge you all to make attendance at town meetings something that you do regularly if issues like these are important to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Coming up after the break, grandmothers rally against gun violence. Stay tuned. It's no secret that gun violence is on the rise, and the issue of gun reform is arguably one of the most divisive political topics in our country. Earlier this month, our news director Mitch Stock attended the Grandmothers Against Gun Violence Cape Cod rally in Hyannis and noticed considerable backlash to our video covering the event.
Okay, I'm Donna Wald, D-O-N-N-A-W-A-L-D, and I'm the president of Grandmothers Against Gun Violence Cape Cod.
Last week, we posted a video covering the Grandmothers Against Gun Violence rally in Hyannis. Take a look.
We rally out here the 14th of every month at 11:30 in the morning. It sends a message that we're serious about ending gun violence. Gun violence has become more than we can all bear. It's not a district, it's not a town, it's the United States of America that has this problem. Everyone really needs to get involved, and especially if you have friends in states that are seeing the worst of the gun violence as we saw in Tennessee. Get them involved and encourage them to speak out because it's a national issue. Your legislators are looking for opinions on gun violence, so if you would call up your reps and your senators in Massachusetts and say you want them to bring the omnibus gun bill, which is a bunch of gun violence prevention bills. That's something easy you can do, and they need to hear from you. People all over the United States have to stand up and say, you know what, this is not normal, and we're not going to live like this. We're here, we're friendly, we're ready to talk, we're ready to put everybody into action who wants to be in action. This is not going away unless we make it go away.
We got a lot of engagement on the video, with most of the comments being angry at the idea of enacting gun safety laws. The comments mostly said the same things. If you ban guns, only criminals will have guns. Guns don't kill people, people kill people. Gun violence is due to poor parenting, and the Second Amendment is to protect citizens from a tyrannical government. I thought it would be beneficial to take a look at these arguments individually and see if there is any truth to them. First off, just a quick disclaimer. No one is trying to take your guns. Common sense gun legislation will not take guns out of the hands of law-abiding citizens. Proponents of gun reform are simply trying to mitigate the ever-growing problem of gun deaths in our country. That being said, a common argument made by gun ownership proponents is that banning guns will only leave them in the hands of criminals. While it's true that criminals may still obtain guns illegally, there are several studies that have shown a correlation between stricter gun laws and lower rates of gun violence. For example, a study published in the American Journal of Medicine found that states with stricter gun laws had lower rates of firearm fatalities. Another study published in the JAMA Internal Medicine found that states with universal background checks had lower rates of gun-related homicides and suicides. Internationally, countries with strict gun laws also tend to have lower rates of gun violence. For instance, Japan has some of the strictest gun laws in the world and very low rate of gun violence. Similarly, Australia implemented strict gun laws after a mass shooting in 1996 and has since seen a significant decrease in gun-related deaths. While there are many factors that contribute to gun violence, these studies suggest that stricter gun laws can be an effective way to reduce the number of deaths and injuries caused by firearms. Another common statement in the gun control debate is that guns don't kill people, people kill people. While there is some truth to this statement, it is not a valid argument to dismiss the role of guns in violent incidents. Guns are designed to kill or injure. They make it easier for individuals to harm others. While it is true that people are ultimately responsible for their actions, the availability and accessibility of guns increase the likelihood and severity of violence. Moreover, the argument overlooks the fact that not all people who use guns to harm others are mentally stable or emotionally sound. Easy access to guns can be particularly dangerous for individuals with a history of violence or mental illness. While it is important to address underlying issues such as mental health and social factors that contribute to violent behavior, it is essential to acknowledge the role of guns in enabling and escalating violent incidents. It's the responsibility of lawmakers and society to work towards reducing gun violence through a combination of measures, including stricter gun laws and improved mental health support. Blaming gun violence on poor parenting is a complex issue that cannot be simplified into one single factor. While it is true that parents play a crucial role in shaping their children's beliefs and behaviors, it is not fair to place the blame entirely on them. Other factors such as easy access to guns, mental health issues, and social influences also contribute to gun violence. Not all individuals who perpetuate gun violence come from a broken home or dysfunctional family. Some come from stable and supportive homes, while others have experienced trauma or have been influenced by extremist ideologies. Therefore, it is important to address the root cause of gun violence comprehensively and not just focus on one aspect. Preventing gun violence requires a multi-pronged approach that includes stricter gun control laws, addressing mental health, and providing support for at-risk individuals. Parents also have a vital role to play in teaching their children about the importance of conflict resolution, empathy, and responsible gun ownership. It's important to approach the issue of gun violence with the nuanced perspective, recognizing that there is no one-size-fits-all solution. We need a comprehensive approach that addresses all contributing factors. The Second Amendment of the United States Constitution guarantees the right to bear arms. One common argument for this amendment is that it is necessary to protect citizens from a tyrannical government. The idea is that armed citizenry can resist government oppression and tyranny. While this may seem like a reasonable argument, it is important to consider the context in which this amendment was written. At the time the Second Amendment was written, the United States was a new country with a small standing army. The government relied on state militias to defend the country. The Second Amendment was intended to ensure that the states could maintain these militias by allowing citizens to own and carry firearms. Today, the United States has a well-trained and well-equipped military, and there is no realistic scenario in which a group of citizens could successfully resist the might of the U.S. military. It's clear that making logical points based on actual data won't change the collective opinion of gun rights activists, but I'd like to leave them with a quote from Ronald Reagan. During his time as governor of California and shortly before passing the NRA-supported Mulford Act, a state bill prohibiting the open carry of loaded firearms, along with an addendum prohibiting loaded firearms in the state capitol.
But I would think that some of the bills that have been suggested, such as not carrying a loaded weapon on a city street or in town, this might certainly be a good one. There is absolutely no reason why out on the street today civilians should be carrying a loaded weapon.
Thank you for joining us this evening. If you have a story you'd like to see covered, send us an email at newstip@capemedia.org. Tune in next week for more hyperlocal news that matters on Channel 99, Apple TV, Roku, and Fire TV. For Cape Media News, I'm Lauren Williamson.